Please welcome to the show the publisher of Detroit Lions and Sports Illustrated, host of the Lone Wolves podcast, our good friend, one of the best in the business, the DOC, John Maakaron. John, how we doing, my friend?
Good evening, my friends. Yeah, Hefe, I wanted to join a competitive fantasy league, not one where I can come in right away and dominate. My goodness.
Listen. I mean, the Doc, Xavier Worthy, Doc. I mean, the guy died in the first quarter. I don't know what you want from me, Doc. Jeez.
I want you to draft better. I want you to compete. I want you to treat this like it's important. But man, hey, what went on today? What's the news of the day? Anything important go on today?
Well, I'll start with you, Doc. People are they want to.
You're trending.
Yeah, Doc is trending. We did have your back earlier. We talked about the question. We gave our honest opinion on the question, and we actually said I thought it was a fair question. Anyone who says it's not a fair question, you need to hear the question again, because I think asking Dan Campbell about pre-snap motion compared to this year in the road games, which he actually asked you go look, and we have the data, which actually proves they did it way more last year. But pre-snap when it comes to the offense in week one versus what they typically do, I think that's 1,000% a fair question. I think the way you said it might have confused Dan, and he thought Jared was maybe saying something about pre-snap motion or something. But the actual question, I appreciated, Doc. But what did you make of the stuff on Twitter, people going at the DOC? And what did you make of just your I guess opinion on your interaction with Dan Campbell? You're the only reporter, I guess, today that you went at it with him a little bit.
No, look, I understand that Dan's going to be a favorable head coach, and when he kind of dismisses a question or just kind of passes on a question, looks a little bit angry at the question, people are going to react strongly to the person asking it. Look, in the end, my job is to ask questions. I'm blessed to be able to ask, really, in the end, things that I'm curious about, that I believe people want to know about. And so the spirit of the question got twisted a little bit, but here's just the facts. The offense didn't look good. Everybody that saw that offense was jarred by how subpar it looked. It looked nothing like Ben Johnson's offense. And of course, it's not going to look exactly the same. Frank Ragnow's gone. You have a new right guard, but by and large, you have a lot of talent on that offense. It looked nothing like Ben Johnson's. And remember, John Morton is not just some outsider. He is a person who was told to us, help put this offense into place, consulted with Ben Johnson. And he told us in May that he wasn't going to change a whole heck of a lot. Now, to me, my question was, okay, is it possible, just based on the success that the Lions had last year, which is the ultimate compliment, I almost could say and sit here and tell you, last year's offense was darn near perfect. They scored in the red zone at a great clip. They scored a lot of touchdowns versus field goals. They involved a lot of different people. You could talk about Sam Laporta, sure, but J-Mo got involved. He took a step forward with 1,000 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs took a step forward. Jared Goff had a career year. Why would it veer? Now, Jared Goff went on the radio and said, the system has not changed, but the communication has changed. There's some stuff that has changed. So it was not a non-private thing. Jared went on the radio and said it, and another story came out about it. So there's been some change. And also, the Lions offensive line had some miscommunications. There was some things going on that looked different. And just at the eye level test, guys, you guys saw it. The pre-snap motions weren't the same. It wasn't the same offense. It wasn't fun. It wasn't explosive. It was described by everybody as unwatchable. So my question was, is it possible you considered, or is it feasible you just thought about not changing it all that much, or what's the idea? So I was really curious about it. And so what he then asked me set forth a little bit of a change in the direction of the conversation. He asked me, what's so drastic about what you're seeing? And I said, well, the stuff that most people have already talked about. The pre-snap motion is definitely not the same, which is proven. The lack of explosive plays, that didn't happen. You didn't score a lot of touchdowns when you did that. So then at that point, I just think, I don't know if it was the part where I said, Jared said that there's been change in communication, that set him off a little bit or irritated him. Something happened. I know I talk fast when I ask questions, but he asked me what was drastic about the changes. And so I said, this is kind of the stuff I'm seeing. But in the end, that's not, the pre-snap motion, that's all fine detail kind of stuff. I just wanted to know, when you have an offense that's so good that everybody loved and raved and talked about, I would have felt like it would have been simplistic to just keep it the same and kind of really operate from a perspective of the Bills came in there, dropped 40 points. Tanner Engstrand got the Jets to score and play a lot better. So I just feel like in my assessment, the change happened of the offense because too many tweaks happened. I just wanted, in my humble opinion, to learn about why would you veer off significantly, little bit, inform me a little bit, how much was changed, because that offense, guys, just quite frankly, was atrocious and everybody said it. But the weirdest part was, yeah, you guys said it. Dan tells me I need you to go look at our pre-snap versus on the road this week versus what we did last year. And then 50 people DM me and said, what is Dan talking about? Here are the facts. So I don't know. I don't know how to take that. But in the end, at one aspect is specifically, why did you not use pre-snap motion to the degree when it's so good to help your offense identify the defense? So it just got lost in the words. Maybe my delivery was too fast. You know, it's quick pace, man. I'm trying to get it out as fast as possible to explain to him what my thoughts are. Maybe I used the word salad. I don't know. But he asked me, what's so drastic about the offense? What is this you guys are talking about? And the first thing that came to my mind was pre-snap motion, lack of explosive plays. I felt it was a fair question. I humbly accept that my wrongdoing in this was that I didn't word the question in the ideal A+ way to elicit a good response from Dan Campbell. That's on me. I will learn from it. I'll grow from it. I humbly accept it. I believe the premise of the question was fair. My delivery is always going to be terrible when you're put on the spot. Like, remember too, Dan Campbell is standing 6 feet above me on this high podium, and I'm tasked with thinking on the spot when he's looking at you and he ain't looking too happy. But in the end, you'll always know from me. I believe I ask what the people want to know, unafraid. And my job now for me to do better is to make sure my delivery is crisp and clear so that Dan Campbell answers. But the answer that he needed to give was, why this offense looks so trash on week 1.
Now a word from our sponsor, Sleeper Picks, because you can participate and go over to Sleeper and try and win up to 1,000x your money. All you got to do is use the promo code CT Sports, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. You predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions. You just pick more or less than the predicted stats, and you have a chance to win. I have my picks for Chiefs, Eagles, rematch of the Super Bowl. I have more Saquon Barkley's rushing yards, more Juju Smith-Schuster's receiving yards, more A.J. Brown's receiving yards, and more Travis Kelce's receiving yards. You can either copy my picks or use your own picks. Again, use the promo code CT Sports, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Shout out to Sleeper for always sponsoring the content. Now let's get back to the video.
Yeah, I think, Doc, that was, and we talked about it before. And hey, Doc, you're always getting better, so I know the questions are going to just keep getting better.
Well, I want to ask you guys humbly. No, I didn't listen earlier. I was driving home. A lot of articles to write. Ben Johnson week. What did you guys think? Was it a fair question?
I think
you guys did the Jared Goff. Now, what I was trying to do was to include as much information so he would understand the premise. The premise is change. Jared Goff said there's change in communication. The offense doesn't look the same. The offense is not running the same. The routes were clearly not as special as Ben Johnson. So the theme was change. Maybe me including all the examples of change sent the conversation where it did need it to go. I should have just asked him, Dan, why didn't you keep the offense week 1 the way it looked like last year?
Yeah, that was honestly, Doc, that was just the feedback I had. I texted you the same thing as well, just the question of it. So I thought the question actually was really good. Like, I thought like what you were looking to ask of, hey, last year's offense to this year's offense in week 1, obviously it didn't look as explosive. It didn't look as good. Like, what do you feel like the difference is? That's what I texted you that as well. So the delivery maybe could have got better. And I think you're going to kill it next time, Doc. So I'm not worried. I think Jeff had the same thought process as well when we talked about it.
Yeah, Doc, he just got confused, I think, because he's over here thinking, I don't know. He said, what did Jared say? He's like,
the Jared stuff.
It was
yeah,
just, I thought
there was a lot in it.
Whoever tweeted, I don't know if you have a guardian angel or something. I don't know what that guy, Scott.
That guy was nice, dude.
Tweeted out the actual data with like pre-snap motion and road games. And it
made sense.
Clear.
It did.
It's not even like a little discrepancy. Like I can see it's like, okay, well, Jeff, it's 1 game sample size. No, they were last pretty much in every metric pre-snap in week 1 compared to last year.
Yeah, and in the end too, like the biggest narrative coming into the season was the question marks about the coordinators. And the biggest selling point of hope was John Morton isn't new. John Morton is a tie to Ben Johnson.
Right.
But the doubters say, no, it's not going to be the same. It's going to be John Morton's twist. But guys, John Morton has no credibility in the past because he got fired from the Jets for running an offense that kind of looked like what we saw in week 1. So we can't just sit here and have it every which way. The idea is if John Morton comes in here and he built this offense and he worked with Ben Johnson to create a legendary offense, I want to kind of see that. I know it takes time, but unfortunately you're not burdened. You're not privileged with that time. You got to face another division rival and then you face the Ravens. This is not the preseason. It's different times. You could find yourself being 0-3 in just 10 days. So, and the blessing of me being a consumer of heavy media, I 100% agreed with Herman Moore's opinion. He's like, no, change happens. You got to go out there and execute right away. And you got to make it look like, hey, things are changing. You got to play and execute at the highest level. It's the same team. So why is the same you rationalize in your brain, why is the same team with very similar talent? What was different? It was the play calls and the coordinator. That's just what it is.
Yeah, I want to ask you, Doc, to kind of take this thing a step further, because obviously going into this week, I mean, there's a magnifying glass on this offense, especially with all the weapons that they have. I want to kind of get your thoughts, because one thing that I thought the reason that they didn't look as good as, and the offense didn't look as great as it did last year, was obviously the fact that they only ran for 2-ish yards per carry, and they weren't able to open anything up because they could not run the ball if their life depended on it. What are your thoughts on that? And then as well as going into this week, do you have confidence that they're going to be able to turn this offense around at all and figure it out in week 2 versus the Bears?
Yeah, well, Jared Goff, and I believe you watched what Jared Goff said. He said, kind of we're easing into it. We're hoping to improve. But he said at the very tail end of his talk, I perceived he said that, from his time in the league, offenses typically don't get purring until week 3 or 4. So I'm a little bit concerned about that comment in that it feels like this game kind of feel like a shootout? Like Ben Johnson's going to bring out all the tricks, bring out everything that he knows about offensive football for this week. I feel like it's going to be a game in the 30s on both ends. I might be wrong, but I feel like this is a game the Lions offense has to keep up. And I feel like first and foremost, the offense didn't get the benefit of extra turnovers from the defense. The offensive line really was the story. It looked like game 1 of a preseason effort by the offensive line. There was missed blocks, miscommunication, lots of errors, and it wasn't crisp. And in the end too, it kind of felt like some basic run plays that were not going to generate more than a couple yards. I mean, did that look like an exotic run package to you? Anything different? The one to Jameson Williams was nice that got the first down, but you're averaging 2.1. Here's what was challenging. I had written a couple times that running in the interior through Graham Glasgow was a disaster. They tried to do that with the Packers and it didn't go anywhere. So I just felt like, we were sold that John Morton spends an enormous amount of time preparing to get mismatches. But in the end, what we saw was the line just accepting what the Packers were giving and dinking and dunking it and hoping they could score touchdowns in the end zone. Just a simple adjustment. If you were going to play Isaac Tesla 3 snaps, wouldn't you maybe try to think about 7 and maybe 4 or 5 of them in the red zone when you were there? Just a little bit of an adjustment, utilize the skill players that you have, and hey, maybe he can catch a one-handed grab when the game is still within reach. But again, it just was an effort that was really eye-opening. It just was completely different. The offensive line, you would expect that. I always believe that good teams, epic teams, not teams that just are flash in the pan to win once, they're teams that you can kind of bring in players and you have a scheme and everybody can fit it. But if you're going to keep tinkering and changing and having all these things to match the skills of the players, I don't know. That's a good question to ask. I'm hoping that the Lions effectively change, but now they got to show it. I think the home crowd definitely will bring down the miscommunication. Clearly, it's going to be a quiet crowd during the offense. Remember, don't cheer when the Lions offense is on the field. You got to be radio silent when they're out there and you scream your head off when the Bears are out there. But until I see it, I want to see what that offense look like, because right now it's all talk and hope, and until we see what the next level is, because episode 1 of the Lions 2025 offense was terrible. Skip to the next one.
Doc, what'd you make of the Jameson Williams extension that happened on Saturday? Just thoughts on his extension. Were you shocked, a little surprised, not surprised? What do you think about it? him staying in Detroit because they got 2 years of control and he's here a couple of years.
Absolutely smart. Absolutely smart. I was shocked to see a lot of pushback on Brad Holmes saying that, how are you going to pay a guy $1 million per catch? Look, the expectation for Jameson Williams is that he's going to have 1,000 yards and maybe 10 touchdowns. I feel like the value, $27 million based on what he could potentially bring, his salary doesn't kick in until 2027. So the value that you get on a player for the next 5 years is unbelievable. You have to take it if he accepts it. Now, if you're JMO on the other side, if we were just having a cocktail, I'd say to him, you didn't want to gamble a little bit one more year, this year and next year? I know you got your 60+ million guaranteed, but if you ball out this year and they throw you the ball and you ball out next year, you're maybe talking 5 years, 200 million, 40 million a year. The market is continuously rising and rising and rising. Amon-Ra got 30. CeeDee Lamb is up there. If you trust your own skills, you might have left money on the table. So kudos to JMO. In the end, realistically, he took a hometown deal. That's a hometown deal if you ever see one, because in the end, his numbers haven't shown it yet, but I feel like you can be confident that JMO is going to be 1,000-yard receiver and a deep threat, you hope. But, man, that's a great contract, great value, gives you a lot of options. If you end up wanting to trade him, everybody in the world would want him. If you want to keep him, you have him under control for the next 5 years. And I really, really respect that, to have Amon-Ra, JMO, and Tesla for the next couple of years. That really helps Jared Goff if you're of the opinion that he needs as many weapons as possible. Keeping JMO was unbelievable. It was an A+ move. I was very surprised. I thought that maybe on both sides there'd be a little bit more waiting, but, Brad Holmes, very smart to get guys, and I think that's what he's good at on certain deals. He gets guys early to avoid balloon payments later. And for JMO, it's a good deal. 60 million plus guaranteed. There's a chance for more.
Yeah, other side of the ball, Doc, Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, they don't have a deal done with him. Can I just get your thoughts on the game with Hutch and as well as Marcus Davenport? I know a lot of media spoke with Davenport in the locker room today as well. Some did. And then I know you guys did speak with Aiden Hutchinson as well. What was your thought process leaving Sunday afternoon, seeing what that, not just the edge room, but just the pass rush? It felt like a bunch of times they sent 4, 5, 6 guys, or really the 5 and 6, and they just weren't getting home, and guys weren't. The frustrating part I said earlier today, Doc, that to me was like guys standing up and the effort just wasn't there in moments when you would watch some of these snaps. Did you get the same feeling from that room on Sunday? And is it kind of, are some people in Allen Park and other reporters and people kind of have that same thought process?
Yeah, it's a major concern because you didn't pressure Jordan Love. That was the story of the early part of the game. Jordan Love, on a couple third downs, had some ample time to survey the field and pick apart your defense. Anybody, any quarterback in this league, if you give him 3-4 seconds, is going to be able to pick apart your defense. So that was unfortunate that they weren't able to get off the field. What was really scary was just how good. Look, you have to first and foremost give the Packers credit. If you watch the Lions, Booner, watch the symmetry of the Packers offensive line. Their footwork was epically amazing. They were reading everything the Lions were doing. There was a play where Alex Anzalone tried to stunt to get into the gap, and the guy was already there. Like, they were moving in sync, in unison, like it was unbelievable. That was A+ offensive line play from the Packers. It just was. And they outmatched and outsized the Lions. It was challenging because it was a game where you tried blitzes from the linebackers, didn't work. Aiden was taken out of the game, and the running backs blocked. It was just an A+ effort from the Packers. What's concerning is when you watch, Dan Campbell said it now, has said it for 3 years. He said, and he was asked yesterday and today, which almost made me laugh because he was asked the same question twice. If Aiden's doubled, where the heck are you going to get some pass rush from? Where? And he's like, these guys got to win one-on-ones, but they haven't been for 2 years. I might almost have to ask, what does the one-on-one win look like? Like, he said that, everybody loves to see the speed rush off the edge. Yes, we'd love to see that, but Marcus Davenport's not that guy. He's more of a bull rusher. You don't have traditional interior rushers that are going to accomplish that significantly on a consistent basis. So that takes away Tyleik Williams. That takes away DJ Reader. They stop the run. They're not really the sack masters. Where are the sacks going to come from? Where? I don't know if they really truly have the answer. Winning one-on-one battles seems like a cliche. Yeah, Marcus Davenport has to beat the left tackle. Well, unfortunately, good teams are going to have good left tackles. And I'm not so certain that until I see it, that they have enough capability to blitz effectively until you see it, the capability of being exotic in their blitzes, getting home. So you're absolutely right. One of the most disappointing things is that the rush didn't get there in any way, shape, or form what it would need to stop an offense. But now, not every team has the capabilities that the Packers brought to the table, so you might be able to get some more wins. But Dan Campbell said that Ben Johnson will never allow, basically, Aiden's going to get doubled again this week. So who wins? Who wins the battle? Is it going to be Marcus Davenport? Is it going to be, I mean, in the end, it's rough to say, but you might need to play Al-Quadin Muhammad more. It seemed like his pass rush win rate was to the degree that it might warrant some more opportunities. So it's a challenge. It's a big question. There's no answers to it because we haven't seen it. Now, the concern was we can't expect the Lions to be a team that's just going to massively sack the quarterback. They haven't showed that, but to only get 2-3 total pressures in a game is not acceptable in regards to what you're looking to accomplish. You need a lot more. You need to disrupt the quarterback a lot more. You need to be more forceful. It needs to be a lot better. But here's the problem, guys. The defensive line coach has been a revolving door. So I'm hoping that Casey Rogers stays this year and next year to see some continuity. This is why everybody was screaming for Za'Darius, because, teams that, look, it's an age-old adage. You guys know it. You can never have enough pass rush help. But they didn't want Za'Darius Smith. They couldn't find Younger, and this is the byproduct. You have a quarterback in Jordan Love that picks you apart and stays on the field longer, and you don't execute at the level, and they take away your best player. That's a nightmare recipe that everybody did not want to see. Nightmare scenario.
What'd you think of Terran Arnold's kind of up and down play there? People went from he looks really good to this guy stinks. Would you make, because I thought early on, Doc, he looked like the Terran Arnold we saw in training camp, but later on, as the game went on, before he left, he didn't look that good. But what'd you think of, or I guess that's just the secondary as a whole, like you were talking about, but specifically Terran Arnold?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, like we always say, friends, do not let friends play cornerback. And also, injured cornerbacks are just at a big disadvantage. He injured his groin early. He looked okay. He was definitely a little bit stickier. I thought that his positioning on a couple routes resulted in some great pass breakups. Unfortunately, listen, this is what was really, in the end, what I think activated a lot of anger from fans too, was that LaFleur out-schemed John Morton, point blank. That pick play was amazing to Jaden Reed. Did you know that Jaden Reed went to Michigan State and is a Spartan dog and seems like against the Lions kind of activates himself and plays? Listen, I hate to see, great plays against the Lions, but Spartan dogs seem to deliver this weekend as opposed to, the new clean program over there in Ann Arbor that I don't know if it's going to work for me anymore. Maybe you should call Connor Stallions. Maybe the Lions should call Connor Stallions, see if we can get some defensive tendencies too. But let's not digress to, wait, was John Morton also calling plays for Michigan? It kind of looked like the same. Is Sharon Moore? Have you guys seen Sharon Moore and John Morton in the same room together? They seem like the same kind of offensive mind. I don't know.
Doc, just focus on getting to a bowl game.
Wait. I think John Morton, if he flops in Detroit, I think he should go run the offense for the University of Michigan. That can be great. Run, and nobody does anything exotic. That reminds me of the Michigan offense.
Now, what about not Aiden Childs? Not your guy Aiden Childs, though.
Aiden Childs looked really nice.
Get yourself to a bowl game first, Doc.
But I'll say this, man. I'll say this. Getting, your opponent gets paid too. What was disappointing was the Packers just brought it on every level. Offensive line was great. Their defensive line, Micah Parsons gave him a spark with only 29 snaps. That's what, in the end, I think the Lions fans were desperate to see, is a guy that brings you a spark that kind of says, hey, focus more. This is a championship level. Doesn't the Packers look like a team that said and declared themselves, we're here, we're the team to beat, and come do something about it? They look really good. And I was of the expectation the Lions would look like that. The Lions are looking like a team that just want to ease into the season and peak at a different time, but that's fine. But I don't know if that schedule is going to allow that. In the end, I think what maybe, if we're just spitballing it with Dan Campbell and what's upsetting him, I think 99.9% of the time when him and another mind put together a plan, it typically works. it typically evolves the way it needs to. Like the plan was, let's keep it kind of reasonable. Let's dink and dunk, like he said it out loud. When I asked on Monday about the verticals question, about it kind of seemed like the route concepts didn't have spacing. It looked kind of all the same, jumbled up. It didn't look right. The depth of routes weren't right. I said it kind of looked simplistic. I should have said predictable, but I said simplistic because it looked simple to me. When you guys are running all at the same depth, that's kind of easy. You need some depth of route. You need some different combinations, some in routes, some vertical routes, some zone busting routes, get in the middle of the field. You need a little bit of something. And so I feel like Dan Campbell, John Morton put together this plan with the true belief that they would score touchdowns and dink and dunk their way to a win. And when it didn't happen, when it blew up in their face, when the Packers were dictating a little bit more to them, and now Dan Campbell's got to answer for it, I just don't think that the combination of losing and answering for a game plan that was not as good as your opponent's, that's just a recipe for a not happy coach. So maybe in the end, don't displace his anger on me. He's not mad at me. I just think that the constant reminder that maybe all that work that they did just for that 1 week wasn't the most optimal plan for that week to get the win. That's just the case. I think that's what it is. Dan's not mad at me. Dan loves me. I think Dan's just mad at the fact that I have to bring up the game plan wasn't good enough to win, and you got out coached by Matt LaFleur this 1 week. That's just what happened. Man. LaFleur ran circles over John Morton in every way possible. It's just right on film. You can see it.
What letter grade would you give? Well, I guess not even letter grade. We know how they were. I guess I would say your confidence level in this offensive line moving forward with Graham, especially. I don't think people realize too. A lot of people just keep saying Tate and Christian Mahogany. I think Graham's kind of in that conversation too, because we have seen a lot of different clips and different kind of film breakdowns with Graham at moments struggling too at the center position, and that was like his first game as being the full-time center. That interior though, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think they're going to be able to figure this thing out moving forward?
Yeah, no, there's talent there. Listen, Tate Rallage is a road grader. I think he's a guy that can get to the second level. They just need to communicate and actually just get on the same page. Listen, I don't know. There was a change in communication. I don't know what that means. I didn't get enough information from Dan Campbell to learn what that meant. I wasn't going to ask that. It's kind of a specific question, but there was a change in some level of discussion on some of these calls, and they got to hone it in. They will have more time. The home field advantage will take advantage of that. There'll be more quiet times. They'll definitely spend the week communicating and not having as many miscommunications. The interesting part was from Dan Campbell. He said, I want to cut it in half. He knows that there's going to be some level of adjustment here. Look, we do give him that grace, but I mean, to the degree, guys, it was drastic. It was a drastic change in how the offensive line looked. It made, listen, everything that you did not want to talk about, we're talking about. Everybody's using the name Kevin Zeitler. Listen, you know it's a bad week. You know how you know it's a bad week for the Lions? The doc has to ask tough questions. You're talking about Kevin Zeitler. You're talking about the offensive line, and you're talking about John Morton. That's not what was expected from week one. They needed to be like, we need to keep that little troll off our ass, and we better win this game, or we're going to have to answer from somebody about what we're doing. And so that's a bad week. You put it behind them. I am confident. It's not a bad football team, but I was of the opinion, and like I said, sometimes you don't need to hear it from me. Sometimes other people just manifest their words in such a beautiful way that it just comes out from somebody that's a ball knower. Would you guys, if you call me a non-ball knowing hack, would you think that Herman Moore knows ball? He came out there and did a video, which was beautiful, which I posted and agreed with at Detroit Podcast. He said, there is no, let's wait and see. You got a ball from day one. And then Equinemius St. Brown basically said the same thing. The fans are panicking because they said, nothing's changed but the coordinator. Nothing. The talent's there. You got a young offensive lineman, but he's not a red shirt. He's expected as a professional who gets paid to block, to open lanes, and to do his job. So I'm of the opinion, everybody, top to bottom, the game plan, Dan Campbell, John Morton, everybody clearly, when you flop that bad, I think it produces a result, like Booner said, the potential for a lot of points to be scored to keep up with the Chicago Bears. I think this could be a very entertaining game, but I'm not sitting here anymore confident every single week that they're going to win. If they lay a dud, if there's going to be a smoothing out process, if they're going to try and change things, I don't know, because you have to say it. Listen, you have to say it. I'm worried that this offense, if it doesn't look like Ben Johnson's offense with all those injuries. There actually wasn't that many injuries last year. Ben Johnson's offense running at that rate didn't win a championship. Does a guy who doesn't have experience calling plays, does that signal to you that he's just going to revolutionize an offense at this level? You have to hope. You can't expect it, but there is, some things right away you can start to do. Block better, and you got to get Jahmyr Gibbs involved. Like 2.1 yards for the effort. That was a crazy record that Jahmyr Gibbs set. You got to start with getting the run. And to me, I joked around on Doc and Jock this week. I said, maybe you just start the game off passing it 10 straight, something a little different, a little more exotic, a little bit more set up the run with the pass. Try something different. But if that offense stagnates, then yeah, the game could be high scoring, but you might not be able to keep up.
Doc, what'd you think just now that I guess the NFC North has played a game, all of them? What do you make of this division now with young JJ? You got Caleb on Monday night. You got to see those two square off. And then the Packers. Do you think the Packers hype is legit? They're favorites to win the division? And what do you think of the two young quarterbacks, Caleb Williams and JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the Packers showed you just exactly what winning football looks like. If you have to go to Green Bay and remember, Micah wasn't even healthy fully, 29 snaps. And that was really concerning too, was Penei Sewell didn't have his best game. He looked outmatched at times. He had a nice couple reps against Micah Parsons, but he got worked. Taylor Decker got pushed back into Jared Goff. The offensive line play was really, really rough. And Dan Campbell had to say maybe that will produce more opportunities next year for the preseason where some young guys play a little bit more, but you also got to worry about injuries. So it's a tough challenge because the division said that's the respect that the Lions get. Is that the Packers said, we got to upgrade. We got to make a move. We have Rashawn Gary, but we need someone else that we know can win. You can never have enough pass rush help. And what do you know? Micah Parsons, when he dialed it up, what happened to the idea that, Micah can't stop the run or the Packers run is over or the Packers can't stop the run? It seemed like maybe that narrative that somehow got started online, which is factual, but it got back to the Packers and they hyper-focused on it. So that was rough. The Bears, I expect Ben Johnson to be very, very, very successful with the Bears, just not this year. This year's a year also he's got to learn how to coach and the fine points of the game, when to kick it out of bounds, timeouts. There's a whole lot more than just calling plays when you're the head coach of a team. And he's going to learn that lesson. Like I said, I feel like, 6-7 wins, they'll be competitive, they'll learn, they'll grow, and then they'll be formidable. The Vikings are interesting. The Vikings have the kind of team that you would kind of want. You get Jordan Addison later in the year. You got Justin Jefferson. If you got a quarterback that starts to have that it factor where maybe he's not the most talented, not the biggest arm, not the biggest of everything, but just really, really good at everything, and you got that leadership quality. Listen, in all honesty, now that he's a pro, he's away from that. I'm proud of the fact that I think that he can evolve into a quarterback at this level. There's no better spot he's going to be in. Kevin O'Connell is a quarterback whisperer. He's going to definitely pour everything into the game. I think that sitting, maybe even being injured for a year would have helped him learn the mental side of the game. And sometimes some guys, and it's just for whatever reason, JJ McCarthy has it. He has it. And I think he's got something that, might be having one of those games where starts off 0 for 6, 0 for 7, a pick. But then in the fourth quarter, when it's go time, money time, Connor Stallions calls him up and says, okay, I need you to do this, this, and this. And then he starts really understanding how to beat NFL teams. So listen, if you're willing to cheat to win, then you're a gamer, man. I respect it. If you're willing to be part of a program like Michigan's and understand all that they had to go through, and you're willing to go through that fire, you get respect in my book.
Yeah, I also want to ask Doc, and I know this is listed with this Lions team and this loss versus the Packers going into next week. I know a lot of people want to put week one in the past. I want to ask you, there wasn't a lot of positives out of the game. Was there anything you took away, whether it's a player, just anything positive that you could take out of that game? I tried to say a whole completely different word there. And was there any players or anything that you saw that you're like, okay, there's something that they could take into next week?
Well, yeah, in the second half, the defense did settle in. The defense locked in a little bit and gave them at least a position to be able to succeed. I thought the run defense early, man, they were flying to the ball. Tyleek, the pass rush, I don't know what the philosophy was on the first couple of rushes he had, but you said it. It didn't look like a pass rush specialty for the entire defensive line, but the run defense looked good. I felt like Josh Jacobs was not a big factor. They ran to the football. The tough part, I think, is that they were close to making plays. Brian Branch would have had a nice pick six, but unfortunately, Rocky Sin is a player that's expected to kind of be that role player. He had a penalty. The penalty on Aiden was weird and maybe unnecessary, but some of the good plays in some games where you're not playing good, some of your good plays get wiped away. I felt like if Alex Anzalone got that interception, man, that might have been a nice momentum builder. So they're around the football. I feel like they're there. I felt like, okay, after the rough start in the first half, I felt like, okay, the defense settled in and looked a lot better, forced some 3-and-outs, and were able to get off the field a little bit. So you got some momentum there. And I just think that special teams was really rough all across the board. Sailors really didn't have much of an impact. What do you know? Maybe you pick up that Gibson dude, a lot of speed, even though he made a butcherous turnover there and fumbled the football. He's got some talent. So I don't know. Maybe you pick up something from the Jets, but I love the fact that AG is like, if you turn the ball over, you're getting cut. And he actually did it. So some bus tickets are flying out there in New York. It's really, really is discipline. This Detroit Lions team cannot take that many penalties, cannot have that many mental errors, missed assignments. It was wild to see. It's just wild to see because in the end, what's panicking is that, and I guess I'm putting it into words really effectively tonight with you guys, is that looked like the 2021 Lions. And everybody that sat down and had the basic channels that I had, we sat and watched Tanner Engstrand, first-year offensive coordinator, looked like he used Garrett Wilson great, looked like he turned a mobile quarterback into Justin Fields, into a guy that can move the football and extend plays and be a little bit creative. You saw the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers look good week 1. Aaron Rodgers, okay, and you mix that in the middle with the Lions' offensive 1989 offense that didn't do anything, and then you turn on, you get mad, you try and figure out what the heck happened with the Lions. And then you sit down and you watch the Bills and the Ravens and you go, at least week 1, the Lions aren't in that class. And that's what I felt like the Lions should be. And maybe it's an over expectation because, you did have those coordinators and it was denial and you didn't want to believe all the outside narratives. But week 1, the Lions were one of the worst 4 games on the schedule. The Lions were one of the worst 4 teams that played. That was not what we're expecting for a team that has largely the same starters, just a couple new pieces. And it really harkens to the anger that people felt that Brad Holmes did make moves, but not enough to take them beyond what they were able to do. So it's week 1. It was not good. It opens up some concerns. But listen, the number one thing everybody always says, you guys know it, winning cures all. All this stops if John Morton dials up a trick play. The offense looks better. You run some in routes. You know what that means? You run 10 yards and like 2 guys come back and then a couple guys go in the middle. You know what I mean? Some route, some exoticness. We like exotic. Listen, outside, Amon-Ra St. Brown's podcast was awesome. His explanation was great. He's like, we're the fan base was used to winning and they used to be losers and now they're winners. But no, we like what we saw last year. We love that. Like that was A+ prime rib. That was beautiful, medium prime rib, juicy, au jus sauce, the great mashed potatoes with the gravy, the butter on the bread, and an amazing price and a great date. And we were all like, we like this every week. Every week, it's a beautiful offense. It's prime rib. It's delicious. We like it. It's our favorite restaurant. Served with a beautiful Chianti. It's beautiful. Great music. No riffraff in the restaurant. Great service. And then you're like, yeah, there's a new general manager of the restaurant. It's going to be the same food, bro. It's going to be delicious prime rib. The music's going to be here. No riffraff. The tip, you don't have to worry about the tip. Don't worry about it. All the Then you go in the restaurant and they're like, you dang near got some Costco prime rib. This ain't the same thing. This doesn't taste the same. Doesn't look the same. It's cheaper. And you're trying to charge me more for it. And the music sucks. Who are these kids playing this music? This is not delectable, light music. What is this? And then you got people going, it's the same thing, bro. It's prime rib. It's delicious. Bro, I'm not paying $200 for the same prime rib you were charging me $89.99 for. It doesn't taste as good. And it's not it's not rare. It's not medium. You cook this shit well done. You can't sell people that got full on the deliciousness that you were serving. You can't change it up on them. Nobody wants that. We love what we had. I love what we had. I thought that was a Super Bowl caliber offense. And you tried to serve us some janky prime rib that wasn't cooked right. And you can't sell it as can't tell me that it's prime rib and then serve something else, man. So I want that offense to look good. And I hope it happens, man. I really hope. Listen, I'm not pulling this stuff out of my butt. John Morton said it. He's like, I'd be crazy if I changed it. He's like, I'm going to throw the ball deeper more. In the end, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense because even if and listen, if I'm crazy, if I'm a non-ball knower, you tell me. If someone's playing too high safety, everybody in the league is going to try to play Tampa 2 on you. Doesn't mean you dink and dunk every play. Just launch one deep to help the offense go from 2.1 yards a carry to maybe 4. Like, just launch one 45 yards down the field. If it gets picked, it gets picked. So be it. You paid Jameson Williams to win. I don't care if he's in double coverage. Some receivers have to win in double coverage. You just throw the ball deep just for the sake of not even thinking of a completion, just to take away the pressure from the offensive line that's getting pummeled, because the Packers don't respect you anymore. So, man, that's just what everybody felt. I felt it. You all felt it. And I was just curious enough to ask, why change the great thing? I like prime rib. I like delicious prime rib. I like au jus sauce. I like nice prices. You trying to sell me something that ain't what it was. And don't sell me that. I don't want to see that. Listen, football in its bottom line is entertainment. I was not entertained by what I saw in the middle portion of my football viewership. I was jealous. I was mad. And then I tell myself, that looked like the furthest from a Super Bowl team that I ever saw the Lions look in Dan Campbell's regime. And I don't want to see that ever again. I don't care. It's the NFL. You only get 17 games, and it's a fast season. You could be blinking at 0-4 just like that. So you got to step it up. And listen, if the worst thing that happens this week is just a bad question from me and they fix this offense, fine. But fix that offense, because that's not what anybody in this world wanted to see. Nobody.
Well, Doc, I was going to ask you too, just going into this Thursday or this Sunday, this Sunday game against the Bears. They're staring at 0-2. What's kind of your concern level? You think the Lions, no chance they're going to bounce back? I know you mentioned it earlier. It's going to be a high scoring game, and you expect the Lions and the Bears to score a lot of points. But I know I kind of talked about this on the show earlier this week. But if you start 0-2, the chance to make the playoffs is significantly less. It gets very, very scary. Where are you at with how important this game is, and just because you're staring at the Ravens the following week? Is it a must-win, Doc? Is this where we're at? We're bringing out the must-win in week 2, or?
Yeah, it's a situation which you have to win your home games. It predicated, and just to address your chat, did you guys listen to what I said? Go watch what the Bills were doing. Were the Bills dinking and dunking it? And I'm not saying I want an interception, but I would believe that if you feel like your offensive line can't block at all, you have Shane Zylstra and Sam Laporta, some extra blocking opportunities. You can't tell me that Jared Goff on one route can't just launch one deep and see what happens. Listen, you were already down at that point, or some opportunity to be a little bit more explosive early in the game. They weren't misblocking the whole game. So that's all we're saying, is that offense looked nothing like an offense that could move the football and score touchdowns. So it was a grind. They did dink and dunk and started moving it a little bit, but then it got bogged down. So I'm more of the aggression. And that's, again, what John Morton told us. So I'm only going off of what he told us. He said, it's going to be the same thing. We're not changing much. He told us literally, again, remember, our job is to listen and believe, not listen and then doubt. He said, Johnny, I'm throwing the ball more. I like explosives. He said, I love explosives. Well, if he loves explosives and you just run a Tampa 2, Johnny's going to quit and just dink and dunk all the way. That's not exactly the recipe. So remember, John Morton told you that. I'm just spitting back what he told us. So we didn't see what he told us. So you don't think the Bears are going to do Tampa 2, or great football teams like the Ravens, or anybody that's trying to stop you? Everybody's trying to stop you over the top. You still got to take chances. You got to be more aggressive. Look, my philosophy this year has always been, you got to win a chunk of your home games. It's got to be 8-9 wins at home, and you try to go 3-5 on the road. The first one, didn't go right. You didn't get a free win against the Packers. But if you win your home games, you have a great chance to go 10-11 wins. It really kind of sets up that way, where this is a football team that wins all their home games and loses a big chunk of their road games, which would be fine. It still puts you in a 9-10 win situation if you could just get 1 or 2 on the road. So I'm excited. I do believe, listen, people realize this football team has been counted out before. They've been, and there was one answer though. Listen, as much as we critique one answer, Dan Campbell finally said something that I said on a podcast, and I said it multiple times on air, that was absolutely A plus chef's kiss. He's like, he's like, this is the standard now. When you're a Super Bowl caliber team, every move that is made is analyzed. That's the expectations, analyzing, overreacting. Doesn't this beat being irrelevant? It beats it to me. This is the most amazing, most fun I've ever had, where you see a football team that falls so far flat that a guy like me is going to be like, your standard is so high that looked nothing like it. Why change it? Why? You know, this is the standard, which is, you won a game. How come you didn't win by more? You won 2 in a row. How come you didn't dominate? So this is the standard. And Dan Campbell said it. This is the new life now for the Detroit Lions, where when they play a game and they play the Packers at 425 and they look like that, the whole world's going to talk about them. You would always rather have that. Guys like me, other guys that want to ask questions, you'd rather have this level of intensity of focus on your team than what it was in 2019. 2019, the Detroit Lions could have done whatever the hell they wanted. Nobody would have came. Nobody would have cared. It would have been irrelevant. Now you get national media that comes here. They pick apart the team. They learn. They scrutinize. This is the most pleasurable that this football team can be at. And that's a product of the great work that Dan and Brad has done. But again, you have not finished the job. And this football team needs to be, don't let up. Just because, you know, some fans want to be slappies and they want Dan Campbell to sign their autograph, don't let up on Dan. When Dan wins the first Super Bowl, we all get drunk at the parade, and then the next day you tell him get back to work because we want 2. He's that good of a coach. He's that good of a mind that he wins 1, why not 2? Why not 3? It's there. It's in him. So we all get drunk at the parade. We're all hungover the next day on that Friday, but then that Saturday he needs to get back in there and figure out how to win the next one. That's the secret, is that you never – listen, a lot of fans just want Dan Campbell to love them and appreciate them. I would, of course, love that. But in the end, I'm always of the opinion, if Dan wins 4 Super Bowls, I'm always going to ask, why didn't you win 5? What happened to that 5th Super Bowl? What happened to that loss? What happened to that in that playoff game? What happened in 2023? Really, why didn't you push in 2023 to get more than Donovan Peoples-Jones, bro? You could have had that 1 right there. We could be at 1 already right now. I am never going to be satisfied with what's going on. And I think the number one thing, I think if you all hate me or don't like me, I'm not a slappy, and I'm not in that category. Go tell the slappies over there, is all you can do is be hopeful all the time? Is that really how you want to present yourself to the world? It's just, it's great. We're going to win. It's great. Nothing's wrong. No worries, no fears, no concerns. Everything's great. John Morton, I thought they told you there's no concern about John Morton. The slappies are the ones that lie to you. The slappies are the ones that tell you it's raining when they're peeing on your head. The slappies do that. What we do here is just being honest. Like, you guys you have my utmost respect by saying, I'm not so certain that some things are going to happen that I need to happen. So slappies are fine. It's cute. It's nice. But I believe that the majority of fan base of this Detroit Lions fan base does not like when you get peed on your head and then tell them it's delicious.
Yeah, Doc, I do want to ask you, we actually didn't have the conversation with you about Za'Darius, I don't think. I think he ended up signing after last Wednesday, if I remember correctly. And you were a big one in regards to the whole situation. What are the thoughts on this whole Za'Darius thing? And then obviously the Jadeveon Clowney thing. Matthew Judon signed with the Dolphins. I still can't believe that. Those are my 3 like dreams, were those 3 guys. And I kept pushing it. And the only guy that's left right now is Jadeveon Clowney, which he was in Dallas today, left without signing a deal. What are your thoughts on this edge room? Do you think there's like something, Brad, say Davenport doesn't work out, and last week he obviously didn't look good and this continues, do you think they get Jadeveon Clowney or even consider it after losing out on Za'Darius? Because it felt like the money with Za'Darius they could have easily done.
Yeah, I think it was after where it was crazy in regards to Za'Darius Smith. People were not happy. And look, it's just it was interesting to see that the Cowboys had a visit with Jadeveon Clowney, but it's not likely going down. So we'll see. But I just feel like Dan and Brad like young, talented defensive linemen, and they don't want, guys in their 30s that they're counting on. Look, the whole Za'Darius thing, it went down professionally. He when Dan Campbell said we're good, okay, a lot of people gravitated on me just leaving out the rest of it. It didn't, like I said last week, it didn't need to all that context. The Lions felt like they were good. Many of you are probably right that they probably could have used and probably will add more defensive line help. The season might end up proving that way. But they didn't want Zadarius Smith because Zadarius Smith got money up to $9 million. He was always going to go, like I said, which I shared, thankfully. You guys let me clip the show and share it. He was always going to go to the highest bidder. And that was that. Many people hoped it should have been the Lions. They got the cap space. I would have said, just looking at it, if you're playing advanced chess and you know what Howie Roseman is, I would have just took him maybe to prevent another team from getting him. Just let him sit and learn, develop. If he gives you 5 sacks, it's better. Just a preventative move. It might have been worth it. It might have been a win-win where, okay, he doesn't fit exactly what you want. You give him that contract. Maybe you say, okay, you can earn up to $10 million. You come here and you just do what you got to do. You prevent him from going to the Packers, Bills, and eventually the Eagles. Look, when Howie Roseman signs you, you get the stamp of approval. You then make people go, well, if Howie loves you, then Brad should love you. So everybody's right. If the Eagles saw that their pass rush wasn't great and they saw Jalen Carter doing his, Hakalugi plan and they felt like they needed to upgrade, you do that too. Howie Roseman's the OG, man. Howie is just an OG. He makes mistakes, cleans them up, and wins rings. So if Howie likes you, then Doc likes you. And I know many people agree that you can never have enough pass rush help. And you also maybe not so wise to let a competitor get somebody that maybe now can hurt you. At least give some secrets as to what he now knows or potentially knows about your rush plans and how to block. Even just for the sake of information, Zadarius is valuable to the Eagles. In the end, if it's not Zadarius, please, when you guys are saying your prayers at night, throw one in for, can there be a young, hungry bull rusher? Dan's right. We all love to see the speed rush off the edge where nobody touches you. We don't have that. So I would love to see that. The power rush is cute. It's nice. But this is the NFL, bro. I want to see some Myles Garrett action. Like, that's amazing. Myles Garrett is amazing. Amazing. He almost had 3 sacks on 3 plays. Like, that guy was disruptive, and there's people in his face. That is just unreal level production. We just want somebody at that position to be dominant. And hopefully it's going to be Aiden, but he's going to get some doubles. And if nobody wins their one-on-one battles, more and more people are going to be really upset you didn't get somebody that recorded 9 sacks last year. So you got to you need a young, hungry, amazing edge rusher that can record a lot of sacks consistently and get after it. So in the end, Dan and Brad said, we're good. At the present moment, at September 10th, 9:41, we're not good at the moment. We're not good at the offense, and we're not good at rushing the quarterback. Oh, hopefully it gets better, but right now it's all hope.
Hey, what's going on there? It's Jeff Iafrate. Appreciate you for finishing the video. You can check out one of the videos here suggested or show support by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And buy your merchandise, FisherCTSports.com.